Hello, this is Stuart from Hear Me, See Me podcast, and today I've got a wonderful guest, and through my ignorance, I thought she was in Australia, but she's in Lancashire in the UK. No, not Lancashire, where are we?
Lancashire, yeah.
Lancashire,
yeah, you're right.
Lancashire.
Yeah, you're right.
Never
Lancashire.
rely on me to get anything right. But
Definitely
today I'm introducing the owner and founder of ZeroGapped magazine, Ruby. How are you doing?
I'm very, very well, thank you. And it's actually Lancaster, UK. So, yeah, I've got the same weather as you. Yeah. So, looking out the window, we're all on the same planet here, Stuart. Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, it's safer for me just to say that we're all from planet Earth because I won't mess it up then.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the way forward, definitely.
Right. Well, what we do, we're going to talk about ZeroGapped magazine. But before that comes about, because it's a relatively new publication, it's really cool. And we've got some links to that, which we'll come on to. But I want to take you back, Ruby. So, take me back to the young Ruby. What happened, or, what inspired you to go into barbering?
Right, okay. Well, I tell you, the young Ruby was, at school.
Right.
And was absolutely obsessed with coming home and going up in my bedroom, making collages of haircuts, catalogues, anything I could cut up that my mum would go absolutely crazy about, because I was putting all her catalogues up. And I'd got all these male models in there, and I got all these haircuts, and I'd put them all together and make all these collages. And I was very, very artistic at school, and I come from a family of artists. So my cousin, who was a very, very big artist in Baltimore in America, and another artist, uncle of mine, who was a big landscape artist in the UK. So I've always been quite artistic, and I was umming and ahhing, and really from the age of 6, all I wanted to do was be a bobby. I wanted to be a copper. That's all I wanted to do.
Did you?
And yeah, absolutely. And my mum dragged me to the police station, got in with the police station, and she said, my daughter, she really wants to be a copper. She's, could you give her some information and some insight? And I sat there, and at the time, I think female officers had to be about 5'6". There was no way I was going to reach that, Stuart. I'm 5 foot, wet through, even now. There was no way I was going to make that. But I was still on that, that's still what I wanted to do. And then at 11 years of age, Yvonne Fletcher got shot, first policewoman that was shot. And it knocked me a bit. So I was umming and ahhing, and I was fascinated with the night sky, and I was fascinated with astronomy, and I thought, I'm going to be an astronomer. And that was one kind of journey that I went down. And then as I got older, I was obviously doing art at school, and I was doing all these collages. And I just turned around to my mum one day and I said, I think I want to go into hairdressing. And she said, really? So I said, yeah, I think I do. So while I was at school, my mum had been over to a big hairdressing company at the time, and we're going back in the 80s, and it was a group called the John English Hairdressing Group, and there were about 16, 18 salons, and they were quite a big group in the time, and they had all these different ones called the Head Gardener across the Northwest. My mum had gone in her wisdom into the salon in Sale in Manchester, gone and had a word with them, said that I was really, really interested. So they said, bring her in, bring her in on an evening, see what she thinks. We'll show her around. We'll give her we'll have a chat with her. We'll give her some demonstration. She can stand and watch us and see how, what she thinks. Oh, brilliant. So she comes home, tells me, and I'm like, yes, oh, this is brilliant. Blah, 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 blah. So I'm 15, and I left school when I was 15 because my birthday fell just after I left. And I went to the Head Gardener in Sale, and I fell in love with it. And I thought, this is where I'm going. And I signed up, and it was a YTS, Stuart.
Well, I remember them, yeah.
Yeah. It was a YTS. It was a 3-year youth training scheme. And I was in. That was it. So as soon as I left school, I'd already got a job. So I was going in on Saturdays and I was shadowing and looking at the shampooing and the cutting and the colouring and the perming and, you know, everything that they were doing. So then when I actually finally got my leaving date and I left school, I was straight in then full time.
Yeah.
And so I was in sale, and then I wanted to move to the Altrincham salon because it was better opportunities there for me. It worked a little bit different. So I went over to the Altrincham salon, but they had their own in-house training. So I was salon based all the way through the week, apart from a Monday. And on a Monday, this little minibus used to rock up at the salon on a Monday morning and pick all the students up and take us to Hamley in Stoke-on-Trent. And that's where the college was. Yeah. So I'd run in, excited as anything. And I did my first competition, which was with all salons, full 18 salons. And there was about 4 or 5 YTS to each salon. So we're talking about a fair few. And there was a company at the time called Jingles in London.
I remember.
And and they were judging the actual competition, and I won. I got hairdresser of the year.
Did you?
Yeah. My first year, a trainee hairdresser of the year. So that was a massive thing for me. And my educator at the time said to my mum, she's very, very gifted. She's, you know, very talented. Got a, you know, very comes naturally to her. I fell out of it. I fell out of hairdressing.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I fell out of hairdressing through selling. So people were coming in for a haircut or perming, or I'm shampooing and they're walking out that door with £20 worth of kit in the 80s. And it's more than the haircut was. Yeah. And I was getting first in all the sales out of all the salons. Yeah. And the area manager came down to the salon and she said to me, have you ever thought about a career in sales? And I said, no. You know, so she said, I think you should. For some strange reason, I don't know why, but I fell into that role. And so from the age of 19, I'd finished my training and I fell into a marketing role, in sales and marketing role at 19. And within 6 months, I was promoted to a team leader of 18 staff.
Really?
And I just absolutely rocketed. So I was in publishing, and I've been in publishing and marketing and advertising for 28 years.
Right.
And I've worked with all the blue chips that you can imagine. And I've done all the journals and all the publications. And that was where, you know, obviously my drive was going on to ZeroGapped. But that was my kind of journey. And then it leads me back because, and I'm being totally honest with you, when you're working for blue chips and you're working in that kind of stressful industry,
yeah,
it's very, very target, very driven. It's high. We're talking like when you see the Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah. I ain't kidding. I'm not kidding you. That is me. Yeah, that's what I've done. That's my environment. That's where I'm from. And it's all fast paced and it's ringing the bell and it's, you know, got a deal. Yeah, it is really true. It is like that. And as I've got older, to maintain that, I wouldn't say enthusiasm, that's not the right word, but to maintain that motivation on a consistent as you get older. Yeah. And that's not because you lose interest in what you're doing, but that's more a case of other things come into place. Other things take more of a precedent, I suppose, in life. And you're getting older and you naturally don't have that motivation and drive, and you don't. Yeah. And things change. So I enjoyed my hairdressing, Stuart, so much. It was like, well, what am I going to do? I want to finish off somewhere.
Yeah.
But I want to actually enjoy what I'm doing now. So I thought, I loved cutting hair. absolutely loved it. And I was, you know, I won the comp and I had the buzz off that, and I love creating. And I thought, I want to go back and cut hair, but I don't want to perm. I don't want to perm. I don't want to. I don't want to do colours. I don't want to. You know, I don't want to do women's hair. I thought, I know, I want to do men's hair. So I went into barbering, and that's kind of the full circle that I did. And I went and trained, and my training had already got a massive advantage because of obviously the hairdressing. But it was still a challenge because cutting men's hair is different. Different techniques, you know, it's different positioning. And then you've also got, which is very heavily associated with barbering, and it's the clipper work, and the clipper work is not that focused as a hairdresser.
No.
So when you're looking at all your fancy clipper work and your clipper over comb and your clipper ear and your fade and your skin fades, I mean, come on, you know, we're talking at a different level, and we're talking skillful. We're talking a real skill to master it. And the more of a challenge something is for me personally, the more heavily I'm focused. It's like, no, you're not going to beat me. You're not. No, you're not. You're not. Skin fade took me a year, Stuart.
Yeah,
it took me a year.
A whole different level of it's a thing of its own. Yeah.
It was, and you know what is sad, and going off a little bit on the beaten track here, but what does sadden me is, I mean, I did my qualification with VTCT, who were fantastic, and then so you've got your city and guilds, MVQs, you've got your VTCT as the awarding bodies. Okay. I wanted to go down the VTCT route because I wanted to be specifically barbering. I didn't want to do city and guilds because that was hairdressing and barbering before you get to level 2. And I didn't want that. I didn't need that. I wanted to go straight into my level 2, into the barbering. But what is really sad, and I do think I hope that it's going to change. I was in a conversation with students at Dundee and Angus College about a week and a half ago, doing a team's meeting with those guys. A bit of a motivational talk, really, to keep the peckers up because of COVID, and then not being able to actually study with a physical head in front of them. You know, everything's been online for the last 12 months, and it's frustrating. And the thing is, the skin fade is not taught.
No,
it is not taught. And when you're looking at the most popular haircut at the moment, it's a haircut that brings the most money in. It's the most skillful, and it's the hardest cut for a barber. And the most time-consuming cut as well. And it's not taught. Not taught. So that's just my little whinge anyway on that. But so that's how I came into barbering. That was my full circle.
What? How long ago was that training? When did you do that training?
My barbering? 6 years ago now. So I've been barbering 6 years.
That's a big change, isn't it? To come out of that corporate life and then go into barbering training. I mean, I've heard it a lot before, but you know, it's a big old step, isn't it?
It's a massive step. Financially, it's a big step.
Of course.
Because massively. Because obviously, you know, financially wise, I've always been, you know, it's always been massive security because I've always earned really good money in what I've been doing. However, not taking, you know, if you were to say to me, Ruby, would you have any regrets? Would you change anything in what you've done career wise? I would say, Stuart, 150% no. Because the hairdressing has given me a ladder to the barbering. And the publishing and the advertising and marketing and the sales aspect has given me a huge ladder to working with people, understanding people, being able to liaise with people, being able to communicate with people. And I'm talking people from a CEO of a blue chip company right down to the cleaner. And being able to communicate at all sorts of different levels with all sorts of different manner of life and background, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, whatever, that has given me a massive ladder up, and that spills over into my barbering.
Yeah, of course.
Because there's a, you do a haircut, okay, and you do a great haircut. Now I've seen some people go to a barber and it's an average haircut. From a barber looking in, it's an average haircut. But what's important is that client in that chair, he's happy with it. He is happy with the way that person has cut his hair. And he's walking out of there and he's a happy chappy. And the thing is, what it is, and it's with anything in life, it's people buy people.
Yeah.
Don't matter what your product is.
People buy people. I love that one.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what your product is. Yeah. What you are selling, what you got going. If that person likes you, they are going to come back and they're going to buy off you. Even if they walk away and they go in the mirror and they look at the hair and go, there's a bit of a line there that wasn't there last time he cut it or she cut it. But they'll be like that, oh, it don't matter. Yeah. And you'd be surprising how much they'll brush it off and actually still come back to you. Yeah. Because they like you and they like your chat, they like your bounce, they like your personality, they like where you're from, what you're coming from, you connect. You might have something in common with each other that you can have a natter about. So where my career is concerned and what I've been done, and like you've just said then, what a jump, from the corporate world into the barbering world. I think if I'd never been in the hair industry, it would be even more of a tug, to make that jump.
Didn't you? So
But I had the foundation to it, which made that step a lot easier because I knew what to expect. Because the hair industry is very, very different, and I'm talking like people, the industry, the catty. There's a lot of that goes about. There's a lot of competition, as you would expect, and it's a competition that's very different than in my industry, in marketing and sales and advertising, and that is competitive, but it's a completely different type of competition.
Yeah. Do you think it's to do with egos? Do you think it's I don't know. There is that fundamental difference, isn't there? Because you can't say both industries are competitive. Both are. Yeah. It's almost like that sort of personality thing. I think the personalities seem to be so much bigger in hair and barbering.
Do you know why I think that is? Or this is? I mean, I can't say this is a fact.
No.
It's my opinion. But looking at that, when you look at two competitive industries and the way that they work and the different types of character, and I think it's about when you've got a head in front of you and you are doing a haircut, you are putting your personality onto that head.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So your personality and your character and your creativity is being displayed on that person's head who's walking around with your cut on them.
Yeah.
With regards to the marketing type of industry, when you strike a cracking deal, and believe me, when I walked away from Leeds and Bradford Airport, having walked in on a cold call and coming out with a £48,000 order, was an achievement.
Yeah.
And when I get all the office and all the staff and all the company going, how on earth have you just managed to pull that off? The fact is that when you can, that strokes my ego. That stroked my ego because I've pulled it off.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm humble though.
Yeah.
Stuart.
Yeah.
Don't get the wrong impression. I'm humble. I'm down to it. I don't see it like that. But it was an achievement. I was proud. It was an achievement on what I'd done. But the difference in being a barber and pulling something like that off and being in a marketing position, I think, is purely and simply because it's more of a physical aspect. It's something that you can see.
Yeah.
So it's like when, when the lad goes out and he's rocking it with his mates and he's got his new skinny jeans on. He's got his All Saints t-shirt on. He's rocking his shades, and he's got a top dollar fade on his head. Yeah. And you know, Mr. Bobby Davro, Mr. Barber, he's like, yes, look at that I've just pulled off. Look at that fade, man. Yeah, it's sick. And he's taking pictures all over and sending it out everywhere. So I think it's more that, really.
I think, and you've hit on something there, that maybe it's about that it's personal. You know that thing about don't make it personal. It's only business. And maybe there's that thing we've got some fantastic business people in our industry, but having said that, there's always that element of it being personal. And maybe that's the difference, as you said, because we're laying hands on people, which I find in what I do, and the connections are different. It's not pure business, is it? It's always going to have that element of personal in it.
Well, the thing is, because what it is a mixture, isn't there? Because it's when you're dealing with when you're dealing with hair, it's corporate and domestic. You're dealing with both aspects.
Yeah.
So you've got the commercial aspect, which is the shop and the business, but then you're dealing with the domestic. You're dealing with Joe Blogs on the street.
Yeah.
And that's the level of it. When you're in more of a marketing and advertising, you're in a very corporate field. You're not dealing with domestic. You're business to business.
Yeah.
You're not B2C. You know, you're B2B. And so yeah.
And your timing was interesting as well, because you say 6 years. That's around the time, if I remember rightly, that barbering did have that. Because to be fair, it's had a world resurgence. Barbering has just had this massive lift off in the last decade.
Coffee shop boom.
Yeah, which was probably like around the time that you went back into it.
Yeah. So for me, it's it's been amazing, really, for me, because I'm right into the thick of it. I went into it, did my training, but like I say, because of my background and the foundation of it, I just shot through the VTCT.
Yeah, cool.
And when I first came in as well, because where I trained with a company called TPG Education in Manchester, and they've got a hairdressers, and they've got a barber shop, and they've got the education. So when you're doing your VTCT, you're actually in the shop as well, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
You've got a proper shop feel. So you've got clients coming in, you're there. And when I first came in, the owner had been told by one of the MVQ assessors that, Ruby's in, she's got, she's done hairdressing before and blah, blah, blah. And the MVQ assessor said, right, there's a model head, cut it. I want to see what you did do, whereabouts you are, what level you're at. Because I always kept my hand in with the hairdressing. So I'd cut partner's hair, and things like that. So I always kept a little bit in and my hand in it. And so I cut it, and she just went, right, okay. And she had a word with the guy who owned it, and he came and sat and watched me. And then he came up to me and he said, I'd really be interested in you working in the shop.
Right.
Quite quickly, really. Yeah. So as I was doing my training, I'd go and work with him and another MVQ assessor on a Friday, and he gave me my own chair. Right. And he advertised for models.
Yeah.
He sat me down and he said, that's your chair. Advertise for your own models. I'll help push your models your way.
Yeah.
Get in here on a Friday. And at the time, I was working as well.
That's crucial.
Because I was paying for my course.
Right. Yeah.
So I was still in my corporate job.
Right.
And then I'd go there on a Friday. I'd finish work. I'd go there on a Friday evening, and I'd got my chair. I'd got my models in, and I'd do my shift until 8, half 8, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then walk out. And then it went to a Saturday. So I was doing more in the shop and then learning my fading. That's where I needed to go with it.
Ruby, you're so lucky.
I tell you what, I am, aren't I?
That's that funny thing, isn't it? A bit, aren't you lucky? Like, you created your own luck there, didn't you? You know, it's always like, you know, the people who get on and the people who just, you know, you're still willing to work, you're willing to pay for your own education, you're willing to then go in after time and Saturday. These things are never an accident, are they? You know?
No, you've got to make it happen, Stuart.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you want something, you've got to make it
You've
happen.
got to really go for it. But still trying to instill that to my kids as well, and they all, it works because they're all grafters, you know, and that you don't get anything for nothing. Nothing's handed on the plate, and often
you don't.
You know, you have to be flexible because the path changes, doesn't it? So
it does, absolutely.
You know, I'm prepared to do that. You've brought up something as well that I'm a bit. I don't like to be negative about it, but it's a reality. Is that pre-lockdown? I mean, obviously things have changed in education, but pre-lockdown, I was coming across a lot of our volunteers who had done that, who had invested their own money in courses with certain academies. There's so many that had come to me to volunteer, who had passed their qualification and couldn't hold a pair of clippers. You know, and there's, you know, that's got to be addressed because there's people out there, and particularly I always think of this woman comes to mind, a lovely woman, still volunteers with me, and who's not in the greatest financial position, who spent money she couldn't afford to spend, and then when she done her first haircut with me, I literally had to like get her down from back to square one and go, look, hold clippers like this. Do it like this, try this. You know, she absorbed it. But she was qualified on their qualification, and that's not right. There's a lot of this going on.
No, and the thing is, unfortunately, there are a lot of academies, and we're talking like just people who can cut, they're time-served barbers, okay? They can cut, and then they open up an academy, so they go on the business aspect. So they might have, I don't know. I mean, they might have a business acumen, all right, about them. They set up an academy because they think, I can teach, and I'll get some other barbers in who I know, and they can teach. Problem is with that is a lot of barbers are not qualified anyway. Even barbers that are out there.
Yeah.
A lot of barbers haven't done any education side, so they've not even done the theory side. They don't even know what half the contraindications are on a head. Okay. And this is, if you're a time served barber, it doesn't mean to say that you can't cut hair, and it doesn't mean to say that you can't get on and that you can't have a shop and that your clients don't like you, because we're going back here again with regards to people by people, and you can get on in life doing that. But if we're coming down to the nitty gritty of the educational side of it, and when you are in a position where you are teaching someone, you are basically transferring that skill to another human being, to another person that they're going to take and carry that with them to somebody else. And you've got to be able to do that right. And there are formalities in place. You have got to do a layer. You have got to know what a box cut is. You have got to know how to cut long hair. Come on, guys. You know, there are guys coming in now who have got long hair.
You know, I mean, haven't they?
But also, Stuart, look at the mullet. Look at the mullet.
Mullet's coming.
The mullet has come back. You cannot just square the side of the head and down the back of the ear, section it and just clip that square bit and then hope for the best and think that looks like a mullet. That's not the proper way to cut a mullet. So a lot of guys in barbering, they're brilliant and so very gifted with the clipper. But they can't use shears. All right, and there is that. And I think the whole thing comes down to it here is that the reason why, and the problem, and the big problem where I see it, is that you have got academies that are not doing things correctly. You've got barbers that are coming out of academies that can't really cut properly, and they're definitely coming out and can't do a skin fade. So when someone comes to you as an interview in your shop, and they say, what skills have you got? Because a lot of them now will say, I need a level 2, minimum level 2. Some of them now are saying minimum level 3 plus 5 years. So, and the thing is, because they need to have that all-round skill set. So barbers are now becoming, it's going to get to a stage where it's going to become really, really difficult as a barber coming out of education if that education isn't right. And that is because, and my problem that I think it is because the barbering industry as a whole is not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not accredited like the hairdressing industry. Listen, at the end of the day now, you cannot apply for a hairdressing job if you haven't got your certificates. If you haven't done your 3-year NVQ and you've got all your portfolio of your colouring, your perming, your long layers, your this, your bob, your thinning, your scissor overcombing, your whatever. If you haven't got all that to go to a hairdresser's, you ain't going to get the job. You can't just walk into a hairdresser's and get a job as a qualified hairdresser. You can't. But in this industry, you can do it as a barber.
Yeah.
You can just go to your mate's barber shop for 12 months, learn how to hold your clippers, do some clipper work, bit of a general scissor job, and then say you've worked in a barber shop for 12 months and go to another one. It's regulation. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. The industry's not regulated.
No.
And that's the problem.
To a degree, hairdressing isn't, to a degree, because it's all about, there's a big move for state registration. It's so different here, like to the US, you can't just go and get a job. You have to you have to be a registered, cosmetologist or all these, it has to be registered to go and get that job, which to be honest, there's nothing stopping, anyone just opening up a salon or anyone opening up.
Well, they have been doing that, haven't they?
And that's what they're doing. And it's all that thing. And I've got a big thing about this that we all say about we're not taken seriously, hairdressers not taken seriously, barbers not taken seriously. But there's an element of that we've got to start taking ourselves seriously. So we've got to push for our own registration, our own education.
Correct.
Part of the responsibility comes back on us, I think.
Yeah. I personally do not think that when you are starting to learn as a barber, and this is certainly something, even with me and the background that I had in my hairdressing, I mean, fair enough, I've been out of it a long time, and then went straight back into my barbering, and even leaving with a level 2. I'm not kidding you, okay? I've come out, and this is the honest truth. I'll share it with you. I've not shared it with anyone else. But I actually came out of my level 2. Okay, all right at fading, not too bad, only because I'd had that experience, because I pushed myself in the shop. But to go out into my own arena in another shop, someone else's shop, and be on my own, took some nerve. And a guy took me on in Lancaster, and he said to me, let me have a look what you can do. And I showed him, and he went, okay, no problem. He said, you need to, these bits and pieces you need to learn. Tremendous barber. He is tremendous barber. And I said, yeah, okay, no problem, blah, blah, blah. He said, well, I'm willing to pay you £10 a day. And I said to him, I'll do it. Yeah. And I dropped my job. I left my job. And fortunately for me, and it's not always easy for everybody, but fortunately for me, my partner had a very good job as a police officer. So it was, I had the support, the financial support, and not everybody has that. But I went into this shop for £10 a day. And he had 2 shops, and he used to come to the shop, because I was in the shop, one of the shops, on my own. So because of my marketing background and everything, I helped that shop, I helped build him up and brought all the clients in. and built up that side of the business, and he was grateful for that.
Yeah, sure.
And I was doing cuts, and then he started to see people coming back, and he turned around and he said, okay, no problem, I'll go 50-50 with you.
Yeah.
But it was like, I was there for at least about 4 or 5 months on 10 quid a day.
Yeah.
And I stuck to it, and I didn't have things, you know, I mean, I had the support with the paying for the bills and the mortgage and things like that. But I didn't go out buying myself clothes or going out or anything like that. I didn't have those luxuries because I wasn't earning my own money. But I was like, well, this is what I want to do. And if this is where I have to go, and if this is what I have to do in order for somebody to look at me and go, yeah, you're all right, you know, you can work for me, you know, and in order to get where I am now, 6 years later, where the guy that I work with is like looking up to me, and it's his shop.
That's great, isn't it?
You know, and he messaged me the other day and he went, mate, can you do a flat top? And I went, yeah, why? And he went, someone's asked if I can do a flat top and I can't do them. And I went, no worries, let him know to book in with me, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, to come like that, you've got to make those sacrifices, but you've actually got to be self-aware.
Yeah. And
you should not try and think you're the mutts nuts when you're not.
The mutts nuts.
Yeah. Because you're not Stuart. Do you know what I mean? You're not. If you've just walked out of barbering college, okay, or an academy, and not really an academy, I always say to people, if you're going to train to be a barber, do it through VTCT or City and Guilds.
Yeah.
Don't try. If it's a really good academy and they're offering VTCT, go for it. Yeah. But if they're not, and they've got their own little flouncy piece of plaque or paper, forget it. You know, because it's not worth the paper it's written on, and it's not. Get yourself in a shop when you're doing your training. If you're doing a City and Guilds, like for example, the students I was talking to, you're doing a City and Guilds, you've got like maybe 2 years. Okay, so if you're doing that or you're doing it a year, right? Okay, well, get yourself in a shop. Get yourself in a barber shop and start shadowing.
Looking.
Get on it.
Just
get on it.
Yeah.
If this is what you want to do, this is what you want to do. Don't just rely on sitting there in an evening because you're bored, getting on YouTube and looking at a few cuts, because that's not going to do anything. Once you've got the foundation in barbering, YouTube's great because you've got an understanding. Once you've got an understanding of hair and using your clippers and what you're actually doing, as in the basic foundations, YouTube tutorials are phenomenal because you've already got that understanding. You can't just sit there and go, what's he doing that for? What's she doing that for? Oh, I'll try that. Well, you're trying something, but you don't actually understand why you're trying it.
Yeah.
What's that about? So for me, it's straight up. It's get yourself in a shop. If you're training, get yourself out there. Get yourself in a shop. Get on a Saturday job. Even if they're not paying you. They might pay you 10 quid or whatever. Doesn't matter. Get in. Start shadowing. Watch them. Yeah. And then get in there on a regular basis and then say to them, if they have a late night in the shop, or can you recruit your own models? And what you do then is you open up your own Facebook page, which is what I did.
Yeah.
As a student barber, open up your own Facebook page and start doing your own advertising and get your own models in.
Being responsible
and say
for your own career.
Correct. Get your models in that chair. And even if it's your mates and your mates are coming in for nothing, or you're actually advertising and you might want to say, I'm a student barber, here's some of my pictures, you've got them on your Facebook page, and I'm doing a cut for 5 quid. People will come to you.
Yeah.
You know, 3 quid, whatever you want to, people will come to you.
Yeah.
And you're getting used to talking to people, you're getting used to them sitting in your chair, gowning them up, I mean, it's surprising how many student barbers go to pieces with putting neck tape on and getting the gown right and clipping it right.
Yeah.
Never mind about getting a pair of clippers in the hands, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to do it. You've got to use both. It's got to be both theory, and it's got to be practical as well.
Yeah.
And both elements are key to each other. And without them, you're not got a cat. You're not got a cat in hell's chance.
And for young people, not wait for it to come to you.
You can't wait for it. You can't wait for it to come to you. In life, in my experiences, we do get opportunities, and we do stumble across opportunities.
Yeah.
But again, it's about being self-aware, and it's about going, oh, look, there's an opportunity. Am I going to take it, or am I going to walk past it? And how many people walk past it? Well, yeah, there we go. And then look back 10 years later and go, I had an opportunity once of being the CEO for Jaguar, but I just ignored it at the time. And it's kind of like, get on it. If an opportunity comes, get on it for one, even if it's not for you. The experience will be for you somewhere down the line from whatever you've gone into. And then the other one is make your own opportunities.
There's something I've believed on for quite a long time, for many years, actually. I've been doing it since the late 90s. One of these many courses I went on, motivational courses and all the things.
Yeah.
Cool. But one of the
Carnegie.
great ones, all of them, yeah. One of the great ones was about that thing of it's not only good enough to have goals, you've got to have written goals. And it's not only good enough to have written goals, you must look at them every day, And what that does, that then reinforces your sight, the back of your mind to opportunities, because when they do come, it's in your subconscious to recognize it, so that, because you've got to have that focus, you've got to sort of know where you're going. If you're on a ship, you need to have a map to know where you're going, otherwise you're going to go round in circles. And that's that thing which leads me on brilliantly. So I wondered how it happened, but your story, it couldn't end up anywhere else apart from you setting up a magazine. But your timing, who would have done that in the middle of a worldwide pandemic? But now I know. Now I'm learning about Ruby. It's no shock to me. So tell me, so the world shut down, and you thought, I'm going to launch a worldwide magazine. So where did that spark come from?
Well, basically, I mean, obviously my background now with the publishing side of it. And I'm a barber. I'm a female barber, lady barber, or just a barber, whatever you want to call it. And I'm looking around me, and obviously I'm on with, I'm on the barber groups, I'm on the Facebook groups, I'm on the Instagram pages, I'm talking to barbers, I'm meeting other barbers, I'm working with other barbers. And I'm looking around me and going, something's amiss here. Something's amiss. And there are publications out there for the barbering industry. Few and far between, really. You'd think there'd be more, to be honest, but there aren't. And they were still very, very male dominated. Women have come up more and more as we're growing and developing and changing as the industry. You can see the industry slightly changing, and women have started to come up more in educational aspect. I mean, I'm going to name drop Vicky at SB Academy. Tremendous academy, seriously. That woman was the first female educator to have an academy in the UK. She is awesome. And you see these little dots around women that are taking that little bit of a plunge, but not enough. And I started to have a look more into it, and I started to have a look at where we are figures wise, statistically, and get some research going in order to do my homework on where we were going with this. And last year, the total population in the barbering industry, 44% were female, which is a massive amount of women.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at one of the biggest barber competitions that takes place here in the UK. And just the one that happened before COVID, there was 3 women that entered. And I'm thinking, what we doing here? What we doing? What's happening? It's becoming more acceptable from the guys, from the traditional aspect of barbering, which was traditionally a male service. No taking that away. No. We're not taking that away.
No.
But hair is hair, and barbering is still barbering. We're still called barbers, and women can cut hair, and they can do towel shaves, hot towel shaves, and they can do everything that a guy can do. Okay. And it's become more and more acceptable. There are still shops out there that will be men only. So they'll have men only working in the shop, and they will only deal with men. They still will not accept even females with short hair. That's another job, that's another area, because I also have another business as well, Stuart. So that's another complete different side. But that was, for me, I was like thinking something's amiss here. We've got 44% of the population is women, barbers, female barbers, out of the total number. Yet there's no platform really. And you'd see the odd female dotted in a publication. And I thought, what's this about? Because men and women are different species. And we've got different needs in a working environment. So you're in a male-dominated environment as a female barber, okay? And you, say, for example, are on the menopause. That really affects a woman in many, many different ways. Psychologically, physically, mentally. And a lot of guys don't get that. They don't understand it. Some do. Some will look into it and read it because maybe their missus is going through it or whatever, or sister or mum, or, you know, and some guys are really tuned into that. But there are a lot of guys that aren't, and that's not their fault. That's their choice. But that fact, to a woman in an environment, in a male-dominated environment, who's going through an array of emotions, needs something. They need a platform. They need to be understood, and this needs to be addressed. And this has been addressed in my publication, where I did a feature in the February issue, which is on menopause in the workplace.
Right.
And so when
sorry to interrupt you, but you're not going to get that in another publication, are you? You're not going to get. See, that's something that's just not going to get done.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
And the thing is when I came about with this, I was on the understanding of, look, you know, I got nothing against men, and I got nothing against the men in the industry. Some of them are, you know, but that's just people, not the industry.
Yeah. That's people.
But the fact is, where I was concerned was I want to provide something for women that's for them, that addresses the needs, and addresses the differences. Because you girls, all right, are being very brave, okay, and you're in a very male-dominated environment. Not only are you working with men predominantly, but you're cutting predominantly men as well.
Yeah.
So you've basically got men all around you, all day, every day, and you're there having the chatter with the guys, getting in on football, getting in on cricket, getting in on beer, getting in on the lads' night out, getting in on this, that, and the other, when at the end of the day, all you're sat there in your head thinking about is, I'm having a hot flush. right? Now, we're serious, Stuart. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's got a pair of scissors in her hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be careful, boys.
Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? Exactly. Don't you think the guy next to her, right, who owns the shop needs to know she's got a pair of scissors in her hand and she's having a hot flush? Because, you know, if you are going to employ women as a man, yeah, you need to be aware.
Yeah.
You need to be aware. Okay.
Yeah.
And what about even on a personal side of things? And I don't want to go on to it too much, but obviously through menstrual cycle as well, you'll go into a shop, into a barber shop, because it's all men. Well, they don't provide sanitary bins or anything like that. They don't, because they're all men. Yeah. And but you've got female, but you've got female staff. So this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to raise the platform for female barbers. So I want to give them a voice, basically.
Yeah.
I want to give them a voice. Stand up, show up, stand out, be yourself. Yeah, this is my motto. This is my ethos.
Yeah.
This is my mission statement. Yeah. Come out of your hole, and you know what you're doing now, and you're doing all these amazing cuts and these amazing long beards, and your skill, you're knocking loads of fellas out of the park.
Yeah.
And you are doing. Don't sit there in your little corner, in your little shop. Don't do that. Come out and show the world what you're doing. Because then what you're also doing is you're doing two very important things. You're educating and you're inspiring. And you're doing those two very key factors to lots of other women in the world who also are a bit nervous of coming out and showing off their work because they feel intimidated to do that.
And yet the irony of it all is 44% of barbers are female.
This is what I'm saying.
So it's not a minority. It's
No.
just a minority on the surface, or see, the perception is the minority.
It's the perception
is no minority.
No, but it's up to almost 50% now. It's increased even more. And the thing is with that is things need to. There is a platform that needed to be put in place. Something that was that women could go through the magazine and go, there's an article here on menopause in the workplace. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like there's a helpline here, and there's this and there's that and the other. It's like also, I mean, the publication. What I wanted to do is another part of me. I used to be a street dancer, and I was a professional dancer for 7.5 years.
Right.
And so I was into street and hip hop and break dancing and all sorts of stuff. And I kind of very much that theme, and the barber theme fits with that very, very well. And I wanted to get my publication on that level. I wanted to jazz it up because some of the magazines are quite very straight laced. They're not kind of a bit out there really. And I wanted to go out there because the barbers are going out there. Yeah. And it's not just about having haircuts in the publication. It's not just, I'm raising the profile of all sorts of female barbers across the globe who were not on the platform as Pope and Pock and Hayden Cassidy. They're not, They've not been spotted. They've not been given that opportunity. They're not out there, but I'm bringing them out there. I want them to be seen. I want their work to be seen. Yeah. And I'm giving them an opportunity to go in the publication and tell everybody their story and show what they're up to. And that's what I want to do, because I want to bring all the women out. That's the aim of the publication. I want people to inspire other women that are thinking about going into barbering, might be a bit worried, might feel a bit intimidated. Don't be. There's something here for you. But then it's not just about haircuts, and it's not just about barbers, and it's not just about the industry. I also I'm now working with 4 big clothing lines, Lovesick London, who are a very big clothing line, working in partnership with them now. Work with Granite Anchor Clothing, Dam 13 Clothing, and Refuse to Conform Clothing. I'm also going to be working with the first female tattooist in the world. She's based in the States. Very, very famous lady. And has actually taught Jeff Goldblum to tattoo.
Right.
She started in 1971. And I'm working with her on some tattooing relationships between tattooists and barbers, which again is a link there.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm working with these people as in, providing people with clothes, tattoos. We're looking at everything. We're looking at everything that a barber would be interested in. It's not just about a haircut. It's not just about bringing them out of the limelight and bringing them into the forefront of the industry. But it's about everything. It's providing everything. It's discussing needs, issues that women have. Just women as a whole, Stuart.
Yeah.
Separate
Back to
from
that
men.
fundamental, it's about women barbers.
That's it's just about. It's nothing. It's not bashing men. It's not gender bashing at all. It's nothing to do with it. It literally is for that basis.
There is a thing though that because I noticed when it first started, the resurgence of barbering and the big boom in barbering. With it came almost like a rock and roll type attitude with it all.
Yeah.
But, so it was very, as you say, it was a very male dominated area. When I grew up, the barber shop was a man's place and all of that stuff.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But this became a very laddish industry, a very
skateboard industry.
Yeah, and to the point of sometimes being, it was all right to be cool, but it was almost like unprofessional. There was elements of it that were very unprofessional. I sat very uncomfortably with me a lot of it. And I had to be careful at the beginning with, like when we was doing haircuts famous, there was things that just didn't sit right with it, because it was, it was some of it was very exploitative. I had a fantastic guest on the podcast early on because she's one of my team leaders from Southend, Nicola, and she's got her own barbershop. And doing that podcast with her made me realise some of the absolute, like, really, really bad chauvinisms and that towards the lady barb, and there's sexualisation, there's all of these things. But you're going to get when you have got a woman in a very male orientated, and it's putting boundaries in, isn't it? It's like making sure that there's things that aren't acceptable.
Well, there are things that aren't acceptable, and I mean, come on. I mean, I've been into barbershops, where I've walked through the door and they're all sat there smoking cannabis. Right, listen, guys, what are you doing? You're at work. Yeah, that's not acceptable. It's not a good environment.
Yeah.
Secondly, you've got kids sat in the chair and you're effing and jeffing all around the shop.
Yeah.
Again, it's not professional. It's not right. Another thing is you've got your Spotify on. Excellent. We all like a bit of Spotify, okay? You like hip-hop tunes? Cool. No problem with it, with hip-hop tunes. But you know what? There's a button on there where you can turn off explicit lyrics.
Yeah.
Which means that when you got the kids in and the mums are sat there and you've got effing and everything going on.
Yeah.
So there is an element in barbershops, Stuart, that are terrible. They're horrific. That lower level, and I think that lower level has come in because it's easy to get a shop.
Yeah,
it's easy to get a shop, and some of these young lads who have got shops, it's because the dad's got money. He's got a restaurant, he's got a takeaway, he's got something else. He can get hold of a shop premises. He's like, my lad just sat at home all day smoking, or he's out at night with the lads. I want to give him something to do. I know what, I'll open him a barbershop, shove him in with such and such a bob that can get hold of a pair of clippers. Here, teach our Tommy, to cut a bit of hair. I'm going to open him a shop because I'm sick of him lounging around at home, smoking, or going out at night just doing nothing, or you know, and that is what has happened in a lot of those places. These lads, it doesn't matter whether they're in a barber shop or not. They've not got the nous. They've not got, and sometimes, you know, Stuart, and it's sad. It's not their fault.
No,
it's not that. It's not their fault. You know,
no.
that they've not maybe had the education, or they've not been shown that. You know, they've not had that upbringing. It's not their fault. They've been led astray, whatever.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's spilled over in the barbering industry because of this boom that we've had. You know, we've just gone through coffee shop boom, barber boom.
Yeah.
You know, it will slow out, it will slow down, but I do think if we can try and make it harder to get your qualifications, and make sure that you have to do everything before you're allowed to leave your education to go out into the big wide world and get a job in a barber shop. And if we can possibly do that somehow in the industry, I do believe a lot of these little things will fall off by the wayside, because they're not going to be able, you know, they won't be able to manage it. And we can get a more professional industry. But even like going back there with the hip hop and the street dance and that kind of where I come from, and that my background, which is, you know, I like that, it's my energy. I want to have an element of that in the publication, but if you look in the publication, it's also professional as well.
Professional, respectful.
Absolutely. It's not full of jargon.
No.
You know. But yeah, it's just a case of that, really, isn't it? I think it's, you know, it's just getting the same old thing. We could go round in circles and come to the same root of the problem. And unless that root is dealt with, it's just going to keep growing, isn't it? You know.
I think this is where your publication's vital as well. And also, like, you know, we only come together because you featured my Queen of the North, Jackie.
Yeah, I did, and I've been following you guys for a while, actually, and this is outside of me doing the publication. And I've been looking and you know, watching what you guys do, and just thought, you know, this is awesomeness, because it's so. There are quite a number of barbers and that have done this, and I was looking at it as well with a guy that I worked with last year, and we were going to go into Deansgate, and we were going to lay out a load of cloth, a couple of chairs, and we were going to offer haircuts to the homeless out in Manchester at Christmas. And we had some things and changes and things developed with the company and the shop and everything at that particular point that we couldn't do that at that time. However, I was inspired to do that from looking at you guys. And, you know, what you do is just phenomenal. And straight away, I was like, right, I'm going to get hold of these guys, because I've got a platform here. And I like what you guys do, and I think it's brilliant, and I think it needs addressing more, and it needs putting out there more just how amazing you guys are. I truly mean that. Not just because I'm on your podcast, but, you know, I do truly mean it from my heart. And I thought, right, I'm going to do something, and I contacted Lady of the North, old Jackie, and I asked her how she'd think about, you know, having an article on haircuts for homeless in the publication. And she looked at it and she went, that'd be absolutely amazing. That would be amazing. And I said, well, it's just I think it's brilliant. I want to raise awareness. I want to get it out there even more so. And because I'm a global publication as well, you know, I was also at the same time working with Jack Reed Foundation in Australia. The two girls out there who have now, they're raising a massive amount of funds for shipping containers that are turned into barbershops, which are for the homeless, to cut for the homeless in these. And they're all over at the moment. They've been in Sydney, they've been in Brisbane, they've been in Melbourne, Melbourne, and they're going to different places and raising different amounts of funds. And they're doing it to two girls who are in partnership in Jack Reed barbershop, but also in their personal lives as well. And these girls are just phenomenal. And from working with those guys and doing an article with those guys, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to get it on with us guys here in the UK. And I wanted to do that, and Jackie went, yeah, no problem. So all the article was done and everything. Article went in. Amazing. And then I got this contact the other night, which was, I can't even tell you how it made me feel. It stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah.
And I got a message on Instagram, and it was from a girl who I've not spoke to her a lot, but I've supported her and posted her work. She's in North Carolina, and I spoke to her a couple of times, very briefly. And anyway, just out of the blue, she messaged me, and she said, "Ruby, hey, it's Ash. Hi, Ash. All right, yeah. I just want to mention something to you." She said, "I just want to let you know, really, that those guys that are in your magazine, you know, in Europe, in Europe,
Europe,
yeah, in Europe, that are cutting hair for the homeless." So I said, "Oh yeah, haircuts for homeless." She said, "Well, I've set up a community centre, in the community centre here in my community, where I'm doing haircuts for homeless people in my own community on a Thursday."
Yeah.
And I was like, it stopped me, Stuart. It honestly, it stopped me, because I thought, how phenomenal is that? Because through what you guys are doing here in the UK, from me contacting Jackie, working with Jackie and yourself, having that article in there and getting that out there and across the publication, that's travelled all the way across to North Carolina.
Yeah.
And the girls looked at it and gone, that's completely inspired me. And she's gone out to do it in her own community. And you know what? If this could happen more and more across other areas, other corners of the globe, I would actually quite happily sit here and go, you know, my work here is done.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's all about giving back. And if you are in a position where you're in a privileged position, and I don't mean driving around in a Ferrari, okay, and owning a mansion. That's not privileged, okay? That's just a different level, all right? But if you are working and you're earning money and you can put food on your table, okay, and you can clothe yourself, and you can afford your rent, and you can afford your gas, your electricity, your bills, you can feed your family and your pets, you're privileged, very much so. And there are lots of people out there that have got not even close to that, not even anywhere near that. You know, some people who say the homeless are not, Stuart, at the end of the day, and I do know they're not, but there are other people that are genuinely homeless, and they're sat there just wanting a bit of money for a coffee. And if we can be in that privileged position as barbers, that we can give them something that's going to make them feel good, because they're living on the street. They don't go home and go in the shower and wash their hair and put a bit of conditioner on it, go to bed and have a bit of a pamper, you know, and feel clean. They don't get that privilege. And for me, it's like the hair's just growing and growing and growing. And for some of them, it's like, when was the last time they went to a barber and sat in a chair? And if they did turn up at a barber's because they've got a bit of cash in the pocket, lots of barbers would look at them and turn them away, Stuart, I think.
That does happen. I've had that.
Yeah.
I remember a young guy I saw in London. He was in St James's, and he explained to me he had got really bad scalp, right? And it was bad. It was really bad scalp. But his mum he weren't, you know, he was living in a hostel, but he's in contact with his mum, and she took him to get a haircut in a barber's.
Yeah.
And they made such a big scene about how bad his scalp was that he left.
Right.
And it took me a long time for him to let me cut his hair. It's already
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
all it was his scalp, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I managed to get him I managed to get hold of some stuff for him. So next time I went, I had some stuff for him for his scalp and all that. But
Yeah.
it's just that thing of not being aware enough that someone, you know, someone's feelings like that, you know.
Exactly. And then even you know, there are even guys that come in the barber shop who have got a head full of psoriasis, and they're embarrassed. They're coming in and they're embarrassed with that skin condition, and they're embarrassed. And I've had them apologising to me all the way through the haircut. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And it's like, do you know what? Please don't apologise. That's what we do. But when you've got someone who's homeless as well, and they're not, you know, they're not able to look after themselves the way that we in a privileged position can do that. And so for me, it's literally about, if I could touch that globe in all four corners and that more ashes come forward and say, I've just started to do it as well. And that's why I'm doing an article with her that's going in the May issue. Because I want that story out there. I want it out there loud and proud, because I'd like other people to get on that as well. I think it's really important that we try and look after our communities.
The great thing about it is that just we're going to wrap up now, but like after this, I'm going to grab a quick sandwich, and then I'm recording Ash on the podcast. So this has come about just through, you know, not only did you give recognition to Haircuts for Homeless, you also gave recognition to what a wonderful person Jackie is, and so giving, you know, and, you know, goes out and, you know, it's a big part of her life now, you know. And like we all go, I mean, we're recording this the week before we're allowed out again, and you know, next week we go to the, you know, can't wait, Whitechapel Mission London, but the following week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm in the north with Jackie, and we were reopening 4 of our projects.
Amazing.
Reopening 10 within the first 2 weeks.
Wow.
She's going off to Sheffield when I'm there. It's like, you know, and these people are out there that are willing to just go for it, you know. I will, after this, I will send you the link to Nicola, our team Haircuts for Homeless team leader in Southend-on-Sea. You know, have a listen to that, because it's interesting to hear that the things that a woman barber has to go through when she opens up her barber shop.
Right,
that men don't have to even worry about. You know, like,
the men don't even think about it, Stuart.
No.
They don't even think about it, and hopefully, I mean, the thing is, and very briefly, because I'm aware that you've got to wrap up, but this is as an example. I have come up against some stick from some people, I'm not going to name names, which is absolutely ridiculous in why you want to give me stick for putting out a publication like this. But I tell you now, I did a recent, probably about a couple of months ago, I did a couple of surveys on my Instagram. I did them for the best foils. So there was all, you know, Andis were in there, and Babyliss were in there, and Gamma were in there. And then I did the trimmers, and then I did the clippers. And I did like these surveys. And the winners, the winners all came in, obviously, on what they'd voted. People had gone on who were all my readers on the publication. And you know, they were all men. The majority of them were men that had done all the voting, and that's on a female publication. So there are men out there proper behind it, you know, and with it and support it, and are like, yes, absolutely. And then you get the others, which are just whatever. Yeah, they're not even worth bothering about.
Don't give them oxygen.
No. But yeah, send me that link. And you know what? Thank you for today. It's been brilliant.
It's been a pleasure.
And what I'd like to do around and about as well is maybe get to one of your centres and maybe help you out.
Well,
you know, I mean, that'd be, you know, that'd be great.
It'd be so good to have you. And if you do, we've sorted out with Jackie and you are there. Hopefully it's when I'm up, because you know, I want to have a cup of tea with you in person.
Yeah.
I want to meet the force
definitely.
of nature that is Ruby.
Yeah, as she comes all 5 foot of a Stuart that comes breezing in, and all you see first are these ruby red lips.
Yes, I know why she's called Ruby now.
Yeah, that's all you see first, these great big red lips. Yeah.
But I just want to thanks, Ruby, for, you know, thanks for everything you've done so far, and I'm sure we'll do lots in the future.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
It's the start of a lovely relationship,
a beautiful friendship. Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on. I think your podcast is brilliant. I really do. And what you guys do, as I said to you, I really do from my heart, and I mean it truly. And you can see me right now, so you know what I'm saying to you. I really, 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 really do think what you guys are doing is absolutely phenomenal. I think it's awesome, and I'm absolutely 100% right behind you. And ZeroGapped will always support you and support your aim and support your needs and what you're doing.
Thank you very much. On that note, see you
again.
Take
it easy.
See you
again, Stuart. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.